going on, everybody? Hope and pray you guys are doing well. Today is Real Reviews. Welcome to the Real Reviews podcast, where we examine film from a Christian perspective. Hope and pray you guys are having a good night. Seems like a lot of you are joining in already, which is nice to see. Shout out to CMB, the ambassador. He says the SOC thumbnail game is crazy. Glad you like it, man. It was one of my favorite ones to make. It took a while, but it's worth it. Thank you so much. Shout out to Miss Titus too. What's going on, sis? CMB again, Miss Titus. Yeah, she said seriously, the thumbnail deserves an award. Submit it for an award. See if somebody wants to give me a trophy for it. He says, CMB says, looking forward to this. Just rewatched the movie last weekend. It was a really good one. Yes, it was. Mr. Green, he says, I'm scared. That Joker's scary. I did like that joke. It took me a long time to find that Joker art. So I'm glad you like it. Let me see, CMB, bro. Let me see, Real Reviews. What's going on, bro? And that's it. All right. So with that said, let me bring on the team and let's get into it today. Hope and pray you guys are having a good day. So what's up to everybody on the panel? BK, man, what you been up to, bro?
Oh man, I was able to preach at my church this Sunday. Just finished doing a follow-up lesson to that tonight, and I'm here to rock out with my peoples. So,
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks for hanging out. Michelle, what's going on, sis? What you been up to, sis?
Um, just really got home from church. That is it. And I want to say that thumbnail 5 stars.
Ah, where's Shawnee? I'm always scared about the 0 star just popping up.
It will not be for the thumbnail.
All right, good. Cool. So Nate, man, what's been going on, bro? How you doing?
Doing well, not much. I just recently watched something called Batman Under the Red Hood, and I've also been involved in this movie reviews podcast. Other than that, just sleeping. That's all I do. Sleep, watch movies, and review movies.
That's a
That's
good
the
habit.
life.
That's the life, man. Yep. Shout out to Mr. Phil Fox. He said, "Look at my brother." He said, "SOC is Batman." Well, that'd be pretty dope if I could have the outfit, but I'm Batman. There you go. Okay, so as we usually do, we start with our general thoughts on the film. And of course, I want to hear your guys' general thoughts of the films in the live chat. So if you guys have watched the movie, if you're caught up on it, make sure you tell me what you think. And maybe if you have a really good comment, we'll go ahead and post it up there and talk a little bit about it. So, Nate2D2, what are your general thoughts about this film? I know you're a big, avid DC animated collection hoarder. So what did you think about this one in particular, about Batman Under the Red Hood, bro?
Well, I was a huge fan of the DC animated universe, which was started with Batman the Animated Series in the 90s and then continued on Batman Beyond, Superman, and Justice League. And then the same team, after doing Justice League, they started doing these movies, starting with Batman, or what is it, Superman
Mm-hmm.
Doomsday. And originally, I was excited when they were going to do that, but then some of the movies that they put out sort of hit and miss for me. And so, Under the Red Hood in that same line, and I think this is only the eighth movie they put out since doing these, and this one was actually really good. I remember when it came out, I watched it, I really enjoyed it. Rewatching it, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it, especially the climax
Mm-hmm.
of the film. I think there's some limitations just because it's a 75-minute direct to video, home video type movie, and done in 2010. So I'm sure they had limitations in what they could do in terms of budget and how much time they could spend on it. But I felt that they did justice to this story. As far as I know, I haven't read the source material, but I found it to be really compelling. And I think I wouldn't say they necessarily hit the ball out of the park with this one, but they did a really good job with this one. So I'm looking forward to talking
Sweet,
about it.
sweet. Thank you. BK, what'd you think about the film, bro?
oh yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. And I've said this before. Whoever is like part of the writing team for the DC animated movies and series, they need to go across the hall and help out the guys who's doing the films
I agree.
because the DC animated things are just, and they're better than the Marvel ones too. They really are, in my opinion. So they do. an amazing job when it comes to animation. So this, like the other ones, I really enjoyed. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome, awesome. Michelle, what are your general thoughts about the film? What do you think about it, sis?
Riddle me this, riddle me that. Are we really talking about the big bad bat? No, I'm playing. No, I thought it was good. What I did learn is that the Joker got bars.
Yes, yes. He's interestingly enough, given the fact that he doesn't take a lot of the film, when he's in it, he steals the scene every time. So I agree, sis. He did really good in this film.
It was a double entendre. He
Ah,
got bars.
yep.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. My general thoughts of the film, man. It was. I remember when I first watched it. This is my second time watching it. When I first watched it, I was actually a little bit floored because I didn't read Death in the Family. I didn't know anything about it. So when Robin turned out to be under the Red Hood, it was actually a shock for me. Of course, the scene when it reveals it, is the train scene when he's breaking down the digital audio print and everything, and he reveals that, he says, "Hey, Bruce." I'm like, when I first watched it, I was like, "What?" So I was like, "Oh man, that's such a cool storyline," and it was impressive. So I really enjoyed the film just in general. Of course, this film teeters on a lot of moral dilemma. And so I know we definitely are going to get into that. So let's go around real quick. Nate, is there a standout scene for you? Something that you like, I definitely want to talk about this scene when I get on Real Reviews. Anything like that stand out to you? Any certain scenes? Go for it.
Well, it has to be the final confrontation in the, I guess, the apartment building.
Oh, you're just going to take the best scene in the
When
movie,
it's,
aren't you? You're
all,
just going to.
yeah. I mean, that's I can't. I mean, and that's I
No,
won't
go
go
for
too
it. Go
too
for
far
it. We're
into it
talking
yet.
about it at
But
random,
I'll
man.
just
Go
say,
for it.
yeah. No, no, no. Well, okay, yeah, okay. Just everything about that scene, them dealing with everything that's led up to it, and then you know when when Jason opened the closet and it's like and Joker's there. It's like why did you let him live? And seeing that he was part of that, and just that whole thing, seeing that play out. The film itself, again, it wasn't perfect just because I think of the limited runtime. And the fact that it's a standalone, you don't get a lot of context. You haven't been like following this like in a series. But I felt like that part, the climax, it was done perfectly. Like I was just riveted. I was like, oh, what's gonna happen, and what's Joker gonna do, and just everything. Joker had the right amount of just loving the chaos and wanting to be blown up, and all of that. Just it drew me in, and so that was, I think, I would say that part of it was perfect in terms of the storytelling, everything they did in that part. Um, but yeah, that would be my standout scene. I don't know. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, that was one of them. That was one of them. I mean, there's plenty more to go around. So no, I'm glad you mentioned that one first because that is probably one of the most compelling scenes, especially because you're expecting this big throwdown fight, hand to hand combat, and it wasn't that. And it was, I mean, of course, there was some combat prior to that scene, but that scene, the dialogue, the intent behind Batman, the moral dilemma between it was wonderful. And I would say in that scene, one of the things that caught me off guard was the Joker's insanity. Even though we expect Joker to be crazy, but the fact that he jumped on Batman, started choking him, and said, "No, no, let's let this play out." I was like, that is such a good Joker. That is such a dope way to play the Joker. He really does not care, and he wants to push the limits. So anyway, yeah. Before I get into more details, BK, any standout scenes for you, man? Something that you like? I gotta talk about it. Something that really just hit you. What is it for you, bro?
I mean, the scene that Nate talked about, obviously, that's just amazing. I'll circle back to that later on. But when he discovers who the Red Hood is,
Mm.
right? He's having the discussion with the other Robin, and Alfred's there in the Batcave, and it's like they're watching the footage. It's like the way this guy's moving. He's so trained, and see how he uses the knife, how he cuts the rope before it gets taut, and him and the other Robin, they know, like they're such great observers of other people, right? And for Batman watching him, it's like he knows the people around him so well
Mm-hmm.
that when you check the voice, and he went through the voice scan and the techniques, and it just reminded me of just how well God knows us.
Mm.
He's like he knows all our moves. He knows our signature things that we like to say, and our it's like God really like Batman really knew who it was, even though he was dressed as a completely different person.
Mm-hmm.
Batman was still able to see who he really is,
Yeah.
and God does the same for us. Like no matter how we try to flip and change, God knows our heart. God knows who we really are. He knows our signature moves, no matter how much we try to hide it from everybody else. You know what I mean? So
Amen. Amen. Yeah, that was a really cool scene because it's Batman's discovery, but also Batman's. I don't know. It's almost like he's mourning through the discovery, right? It's like it's it feels to me that yeah, Batman mourned, but he really didn't really mourn. But then he's looking at this and he's starting to regret a lot of things. And the flashback scenes during the film about his regret, but also like you said, man, discovering and just looking at these signature moves that Robin had. Spoiler alert. That Robin had was pretty dope. The fact that he did, and then what he said, do you know? He asked Nightwing. He said, "Do you know many people who can cut my line?" And he's like, no. And it's just that was a pretty dope scene. Michelle, any standout scenes for you?
I will probably say when um, when I think they were like the android assassins came to get Red Hood and Batman showed up to basically save him.
Mm-hmm.
And so like even though at that point like he considered him a bad guy,
Mm-hmm.
he still considered him his son. So like him doing all that crazy stuff didn't negate the fact that he wanted to still protect him and make sure that nothing happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so that will probably be like one of um like my standout scene. And it makes me think like even when we have strayed and done whatever and we act in a fool, we probably not living our best Christ like nature,
Mm-hmm.
that our Heavenly Father still comes to save and kind of protect us even when we probably don't deserve it. Because he was wilding. He was wilding out. So that's probably that was like one of the scenes that really stuck with me. And then even after he did all that, he still was like, "Oh, let me, stick this into this dude's eye and kill him, like right here." Batman's like, he's like, "No," and it's, but he still, even after that, like he still wasn't trying to like abandon him. Like he was like, "I want you to see like what you're doing is going to take you down a path that you don't want, but I'm here to try to protect you from that path, but I can't protect you from that path
Mm.
if you don't want to."
Nice, nice. I agree. Pretty dope. Pretty dope. For me, I'm since you guys stole all the cool scenes, there's another one, and Roxby mentioned it, so I'll use hers as my own because I did like this scene as well. Roxby said the opening scene with Joker stood out most to me. I was caught off guard how they didn't hold back on his character and level of depravity. Let's be honest, man. They made very good use of one singular item, and that's the crowbar. Because, you know, and what's interesting is that it's such a simple tool, but man, everybody I think can relate. Not that we know what it feels like, but we can understand what it might feel like to be hit over and over again with a crowbar. And the fact that he was just beating him, he was like, "What's that? Huh? You can't breathe?" And then he just, how about the backhand? Now the four. I mean, I absolutely agree with Roxby. They set the tone for who the Joker was right at the start of the movie, and it was a really good scene. So I'll agree with Roxby. Very good opening scene. Okay, so that's the crowbar scene. Let me delete my note on that real quick. Okay, so one of the biggest things in the film is, of course, this moral dilemma between Batman, the Joker, and Robin. And one of the biggest things, I think a lot of people have probably asked this question before, is why doesn't Batman just kill the Joker? Why does he keep putting him away instead of just killing him completely? I think Batman's explanation in that scene was very good, especially for his character when he went into the point of saying, because Robin kept on interrogating him, why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? You're scared. You know, all these reasons as to why he thought Batman didn't kill the Joker. But here we have Batman saying something as simple as, no, it's just too easy. And I know if I start, it'll be too easy to continue. So it wasn't Batman's fear of killing the Joker. It was the fear of himself going over to, quote unquote, the dark side. And I thought that was a great explanation from Batman. So the question I got for you guys, and of course you can elaborate on the scene even more, is do you think Robin had a point? And is Robin right? Let's start with you, Michelle. Was Robin right? Okay, we'll move to BK. Well,
I
there you go.
will.
Go for it.
Yeah, I will say. So it's probably gonna sound bad, but I do agree with Robin. Like sometimes you a little leaven leavens the whole lump. And Jordan, I mean not Jordan, but Joker, same
Like,
person.
what?
Yeah.
Um,
What? What?
like like he's never going to learn his lesson, and people keep us like they keep busting him out of Arkham. He keep busting himself out of Arkham. Like he's no holds bars, no pun intended, for him. And it's like this man is legit. Like if you've seen, I think it was the smiling joke or something like that. Like finally, um, exactly. But you have to like. He's just not going to learn. Like he's just going to continue to escape and continue to escape and continue to just like get worse and worse because every time he escapes, he does more and greater and grander because he's a Joker and he's going to outdo himself. And it's like, fam, y'all, y'all haven't realized Gail can't hold him. Just go ahead and put him down. At this point, just put him down. Like I don't understand why y'all letting him live. And then like if he's living, everybody else like, well, if the Joker can make it, I surely can make it. They're like, oh, crime is up in Gotham. Yeah, because Joker's still living. You keep ahead, everything else is going to go. But everybody's like, oh, Joker living. Let me go ahead and commit a couple little crimes because nobody's going to really stop me. Like Batman's a joke. Batman's a joke in Gotham. Like you run around, you beating up on people just to let them live and come out and fight you again, sir. Sir, come on. Uh, just come on. Just go ahead and do away with him. He's had enough chances.
Awesome, awesome. BK, man, was Robin right or was Batman right? Should Batman be just putting away the Joker, or should he do what Robin said and take him out? What are your thoughts, man?
I understand why Robin feels that way, right? It's like
Right.
he's not. I can't say he's totally. He's not crazy in feeling that way. I think Robin definitely represents a very human reaction
Mm,
to that kind of. I mean, the man almost got killed by like we saw the scene like beat the brakes off of him,
right.
right?
Oh yeah.
But what's interesting, right? In a weird way, the Robin Batman discussion is very similar to when Jesus was tempted by Satan,
Okay.
right? Because Batman had this very strong code, right? And Robin was tempting him to let that go. And he tried various things, right? It's one was sentimentality, right?
Hmm.
It's like, yo, he almost killed me. Like, if he did that to you, oh man, I would have searched the earth for this dude. Like, you can't do that for me. Like, I thought you loved me, you know?
Yeah.
And then Batman explained, well, no, if I do this, then I can't go back. It's like, then he's like, well, I'm not talking about like the scarecrow or the penguin. I'm just talking about this guy. I'm not saying you gotta kill everybody else. I understand everybody else. No, no, this one. Just this one, Batman. It's this one. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it's
like
like,
Gotham don't got a death penalty. Like I mean, what they doing in there? I'm sorry, Alfredo. I'm
no, but here's the thing: Batman would end up being the greatest villain in Gotham. Because think about it. You see how paranoid Batman is. You really want him on the dark side?
No.
Really? No, you don't want that. He already has contingency plans for the other Justice Leaguers if they go to the dark side.
He sure do.
Yep. That's another dope film, actually.
You really want that dude on the wrong side of the tracks? You don't. You don't.
But Gotham though, not even Batman. Gotham don't have a death. Like it ain't gotta be Batman. Like
No, they gotta
when
have a
you
death penalty. Does
you get
Arkham?
like
They
Gotham ain't got one. Like
they
y'all can't put
gotta.
him to death.
But they're all crazy, so that's why they put them in Arkham Asylum. So they're all crazy, so you can't kill them.
I
He
mean,
pled insanity.
I think
Right?
they
They
could
all
make
plead
an
insanity.
exception for Joker though. Like y'all ain't making an exception for like this man is like he murders a. I just think there should be an exception. An exception
But
for
again,
Joker.
right? It's the sentimentality though that's so devious, because
Hmm.
that really tempts people to lower their convictions. And honestly, we've seen that very recently. You know, somebody who claims to be a man of God has not been a man of God for some time, and because this particular person is transitioning, all of a sudden we all should lower our convictions, be like, and now claim him as this great man of God, which he wasn't. He's a heretic.
Right.
But for sentimental reasons, you can't publicly say that for some reason. You know what I mean? So sentimentality can really, really be a thorn in your flesh when it comes to watching your life and doctrine. And he was trying Batman. He really wanted to manipulate Batman and have him drop his conviction based on sentimentality.
Yep. As a matter of fact, Roxby mentions that in the chat. She says, if Batman kills Joker, then doesn't the Joker win? Proving every man can be pushed to evil. Because that's isn't that the Joker's whole point of fighting Batman is Batman's whole thing is I'm not going to kill. So the Joker's like, I'm going to make you kill. I'm going to try my very best to make you break your one rule. You know what I mean? And isn't that what Heath Ledger's Joker said? And that's the one rule you're going to have to break. You know what I mean? And it's interesting because Batman, I think, even in that scene, kind of for me represents every Christian. Every Christian is being tempted on a constant daily basis to break, God's commands. And Batman's explanation about no, it's too easy because if I start, I won't stop. I think a lot of Christians deal with that, whether it's temptation, whether it's addiction, whether it's anything like that. We have this tendency that if we sin and we fall over to that side, we'll just continue because then we'll think, well, I've already done it. I might as well keep going. You know what I mean? And I think it's an interesting contrast of the Batman and then the Christian. But before I get even into more detail, I definitely want to get your thoughts, Nate. As far as that goes, man, what do you think? Is Robin right in his sentiment and believing what he believes, or is he wrong, or is Batman right or wrong? What are your thoughts?
Man, there's so many ways to look at that question, because you have to see it from all the different perspectives and from the different circumstances. I mean, one could argue under if say Joker was holding a gun to somebody's head, and the only way that Batman could have stopped Joker from shooting, let's say it's a child,
Mm-hmm.
was to kill him. Maybe he didn't have any more batarangs. He didn't have any other way, to any other um, method but lethal force would have put that child at risk. One could argue that it would have been right for Batman if he had the ability to kill Joker to end him in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, how many moments did Batman have like that where he didn't choose? He didn't want to break his code because the code was more important than saving the person's life.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that question. I mean, we don't, obviously that's very hypothetical, so we don't know how often Batman chose that. But then there's also Jason is speaking from the point of view of finding Joker, hunting him down, and carrying out justice. Like, not, he was in jail. He was in Arkham, I guess. He was locked up. But Jason wouldn't have been satisfied unless Bruce had gone in, broke into Arkham, and took care of him. I mean, I think that's what he's asking.
Right.
And so that's kind of, I mean, tantamount to murder, I think. At least under the law, it would be. So, from Jason's point of view, what he's seeking was vengeance, or yeah, vengeance, revenge. He's seeking, what he said was, forget about everything else that he's done. Forget about all the graves. Why didn't you do it? Because he took me away from you. That's Jason's point.
Right.
You didn't do this for me. That was his point of morality. Was not just that Joker had done all this evil. The evil was done, was separating Jason from Bruce, and that was Jason's point. So from that point of view, it's like, well, it's not even about any sense of morality anymore, or at least nothing that can be objective. It's very personal. It's about that specific sin. That's what mattered. And so then the question that raises the question, well, why should that be the one thing that matters? And so from that point of view, from Jason's point of view, I don't know that I can say that Jason himself is right, because he's seeing it. He's seeing it from. It's like, well, why doesn't anything else matter? Like,
Right.
other than that, Bruce didn't do this for him. So I think from that point of view, I don't know that I can agree with Jason. Now, as far as Batman, was he wrong, or was he right from his point of view?
Yeah, how much
You know,
responsibility does Batman, in your point, just along the lines of what you're thinking, how much responsibility do you think Batman holds for the lives the Joker has taken?
That's a good question. And I don't know. Again, the question is again, that, because that brings
All
the
of
point
it.
of how many. What was that? All of it? Yeah.
All
I
of it.
mean, it could be, because how many times did he risk not killing Joker, just to uphold his code, when that would have been the better choice? Because usually, if a cop shoots someone to save an innocent, because they know that if they don't act, that innocent could have died, most people would agree that was justifiable homicide. It's not murder. It's homicide, but it's justifiable homicide. So if I don't know how many of those situations did Batman choose his code over the safety of the innocents.
Right.
You know, and anytime he did that, even though he got lucky in that he may be able to save the innocent, that down the line led to Joker being able to put other people in graves. So in that case, it could be that he was uh, any time that he should have taken that homicide would have been justifiable, and that would have been the right choice. I think after that, any lives that were lost because of Joker, you could argue that Batman is responsible for those lives. And just, I mean, one last point, to address what Batman says, how it would have been too easy. It's funny because you look at Star Wars, you look at the dark side and why the Jedi don't want people to go down that road, because it becomes too easy to use that power. You give into lust, you lose control. I mean, this is what we kind of talked about with sin, when you cross that line. And it's funny how close Batman is to that line, though. I mean, his line is, "I am vengeance, I am the night," and he's using fear to keep criminals in line, and yet still he has that code, which is interesting that he doesn't cross that. And I think he understands why he can't cross that. Because I think a lot of us know, you talk about addiction. I mean, we know that Matthew Perry recently passed away, and he dealt with a lot of addiction. And one thing he said in one interview was that he could make a choice for that first drink, but every drink after that is no longer his choice. Now, whether or not that's true, it's hard to say, but we understand the sentiment of what addiction is. When you cross that line, how easy it is for that to be okay. I mean, I've heard people make the same comment about believers who said, once you've had sex outside of marriage the first time, it makes it harder to not do it again and again and again.
Right.
Once you cross that line. And it makes me think of a line from Doctor Who, when we were talking about that behind the scenes before. There's an episode called "When a Good Man Goes to War," and the 11th Doctor is confronting his enemy, and the enemy is talking to him about all his rules as a good man. And the Doctor says, good men don't need rules. Now is not the day to find out why I have so many, because he knows.
Wow.
He knows he needs to keep himself in check. And I think Batman is the same way. He knows that there's a value in the code. There's value in life, and there's a value in what he's doing, and also in how he does it. So I think from a personal standpoint, in terms of what boundaries he's willing to cross, I think maybe he's right in the sense that if he crosses that line, he can't do what he's going to do anymore. He can't. He's. It's not going to be about doing good. It's going to be about satisfying his own sense of vengeance. And so, is he right? Is he right? I think maybe he may be right, because if he's going to become like the Red Hood, then what do we have then? We no longer have the Dark Knight. We have some version of the Dark Knight that's corrupted. And is that better? I don't know.
You know what Nate, you just made me think of this. The whole I am vengeance thing, that's Cap. That's Cap. That is a talking point he uses. It's propaganda. Cuz he's really it's justice. As much as he talks about vengeance, he doesn't take no one's life, because that would be revenge.
But saying I am justice is not as cool, right?
Right, exactly. So to say vengeance, to put fear into the hearts of his enemies, right? But it's a farce. It's a complete farce. He's not the spirit of vengeance. He really believes in justice. He wants these people to be put away so they can stop hurting other people. That's not revenge. That is not revenge.
Yeah.
So it's part of his costume. The Dark Knight, right? That vengeance is actually one of his. It's no different than one of his things he used, like to disappear, the smoke thing. It's a mirage. It's propaganda. It's just another tool that he uses. But he's not vengeful. He's not.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think this argument, whether Batman is right for not killing, and then Jason Todd, no, not is it Jason Todd? Am I saying the right? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Or Jason Todd is right. I think it's interesting that this kind of argument is also levied against God. Right. So, for example, some people will say, well, the God of the Bible wiped out a whole nation of people and the children. And is that the right thing to do? And I think people aren't really thinking about the answer. I think they just want the standard response of, well, I don't know if he's, and then trying to kind of pose that doubt in a sense. So for me, like, I'm thinking along the lines of, so God eliminates wipes out the Canaanites from the area, and people are like, well, why did God take the children? Well, there's a couple. I mean, number one, I can't make the moral call, but what I can do is look at Scripture, understand God is just and righteous, and maybe I can think about a way for us to think about this just a little bit differently. So if you think about it, so God wipes out this nation. Now, why? That's the question that we all should ask. Why did God wipe out the nation? Not whether what he did was right or wrong, but why did he do it? And I think if you look into the behavior of the Canaanites, number one, he warned the Canaanites for several decades. Stop your sins. Stop doing wickedness. Stop doing these things. And what they were doing is they were taking children, sacrificing them on altars, burning them alive. And some people will say, well, most people will say, oh, well, why God doesn't intervene? But then when he does intervene, you have something to say. So here's the thing. Maybe, now I don't know God's thoughts, right? I don't know. I'm just a human being created by God. But maybe, right? Just to pose a position. What if God wipes out that nation? Because no matter how many times he told them to repent, they didn't, right? The next generation did the same thing. The next generation did the same thing. So he goes and he wipes out this whole people group. And some people will say, well, why doesn't he just kill the ones that just did the sacrifices? Well, the whole nation believes in it. And so they're all going to continue this. And the children, what happens when the children grow up? They're going to go right into that sin. And when they go right into that sin, what happens? Does he pause? Does he delay? Or does he wipe them out? But here's the thing that I've always thought about that portion of scripture, and I think it shows how much God is above our minds. What if God wiped out all of them to save the innocent children? Because if he lets the children grow up, they're going to commit idolatry. They're going to commit these murders that their parents did. And so what happens is God wipes them out. And now these innocent children, where are they going? I believe God is just. I believe these children are not going to go to hell because, number one, they're innocent young children. But then the parents are also judged. So, and then, what I think, and at least it gives me some thought of how far God thinks ahead than we do, is God both executed judgment and justice at the exact same time. Wiping out the entire nation gives these individuals punishment for their sin while also rescuing these children from growing up and doing the same thing their parents did. And when I think about that in scripture, I think, you know what, Lord? I'm glad you're the one with all the power, with all the wisdom and the knowledge. I'm glad that I am not the one given that call. And so when you think about this dilemma, this moral dilemma between Batman and the Joker and Jason Todd, again, not Jason Todd, Batman, in a sense, to me, represents the Christian who's not willing to go against the values of the Lord, no matter what. So, of course, there's always this nuance. There's every kind of hypothetical situation, there could be a little loophole. But just in general, what if, let's say, somebody holds a gun to my head, or holds a gun to, like, say, God forbid, my wife's head, and you all know how much I love my wife. But what if the person says, I won't pull the trigger if you denounce Jesus? Think about that. Do I denounce Jesus to save my wife? Do I cross that line? Because that's a big deal. Jesus says, if you deny me, I'm going to deny you before my Father. And that's huge and that's heavy. I know I'm bringing the stream, making it real heavy right now, but think about it. We can't cross a line, similar in the way that Batman can't cross a line. He can't cross that moral boundary, because if he does, of course, he'll go to the dark side, end up, just as dark as the Joker, if not worse than the Joker, because of his intellect and prowess. You know what I mean? So, those are just my thoughts on it. And I want people to think along the lines of, listen, these films are sending a message. Whether we agree with it or not, is up to us, for us to examine. This is why Real Reviews exists. So we can talk about these very important aspects of the film, but also about these moral dilemmas. Because think about it. We have people who are watching this film who are on the side of Robin. Like, yo, he needs to do what he's doing. He's right. There are some people that say Batman right. You know what I mean? And so we as Christians, we're supposed to point people toward Christ so that they can know what's right and not rely on a cartoon to teach you moral ethics, but also give you a good storyline in the midst. Any thoughts about what I said? Anything that struck a nerve, caught some attention?
Yeah, I just want to say that going back to Batman and Joker, like, I think he does feel responsible for Joker, not just because, like, his moral code. If you look at how Joker became the Joker, and that weighs heavily on Batman. And I think he feels like I have already he feels like I have pushed this man to this limit because we were fighting and I couldn't save him. And now the Joker was born because of my failure to save the Red Hood, because he's the original Red Hood in this one. And so he's like, my failure to save this original Red Hood, now the Joker is born. So I am responsible for him, and I don't want to, because I've already driven him to this, just like he was with Robin or Jason. Like, I feel like I have driven them to this, and now I have to try to show them differently, to take them down a different path, because I feel like I'm responsible for how these people have turned out.
Yeah.
I would never want to be discipled by Batman, for the record, because he just doesn't seem like a good discipler. I would never want to be discipled by him. But I can see how he probably was at a very serious moral dilemma between Jason and the Joker, because he does feel like he birthed both of them
Mm,
um, in their form that they are now. He feels like I birthed the Red Hood and I birthed the Joker, and I don't really know how to like stop this because the road to hell is paved with good intentions,
right.
and I feel like he felt like this is the best thing for me to do. I'm taking Jason off the streets. I'm helping him. I'm taking him, saving him. But I have led him down a road. It's like the prodigal son. Nightwing is like the one who stayed and
Right.
took care of it. Because, he was like he came and helped when I didn't tell him, but even when I needed him to be there, he was there to save me. So like Nightwing is like the one who stayed, and
That's a good comparison. Nice,
yeah,
nice one.
yeah, and Red Hood is like the one who went to like sow his royal oats, and did whatever he wanted to do. And so like he came back like angry and hurt and ashamed, but a lot of it was still like he wanted to blame Batman, but a lot of that was still his choices too. So we see like Joker making bad choices, but he's blaming Batman for his bad choices because had he not been a criminal, he wouldn't have been in the Red Hood for Batman to have to fight him. And had Jason listened to Batman is like, stay here, don't move. Joker's dangerous. I'll take care of it. Like they made really poor choices, and so now Batman is feeling like the sting of their choices, because when we make choices, they don't just affect us, they affect everybody around us. Like we do not make choices that only affects us, right?
Hmm.
So this is what like they're making all these bad choices, and Batman is like feeling the sting of it, and like everybody is like looking to him because they're blaming him, but in reality, had they made better choices, Batman wouldn't have to go and like save and protect or try to stop or feel responsible for Joker and not murder him, because Gotham needs a death penalty. That's all I got for you.
But you know
Um,
what? Let me push it a little more, right? Just your point. So when we talk about Batman, how much responsibility? Of course, we're talking about Batman as being a disciple maker in a sense, but
mhm.
how much responsibility does a teacher have for a student, and how long does he hold that responsibility? Do you think?
That's what I said. Like Jason made his choices. Batman told him like this is not a good road. Like we see the conversations like when he was real young, he go in there, he wildly, he just knocking everybody. He's like, I'm too fast. Look at me, haha, you're not fast enough. And Batman's like, you can't keep doing this, like you're being really reckless, and you're going to either get yourself hurt or somebody else hurt. And I don't want you to get hurt. And Batman had been continually telling him this, like, you can't keep doing this. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep doing this. And he said, watch me and I'm going to do what I want. And then once he suffered the consequences of his own actions, then he wanted to blame Batman. So it's not, at that point, it wasn't Batman, it was
Hmm.
him. But Batman felt responsible because Batman seen him as his son. But it still was his own bad choices that he made to begin with. But nobody wants to take responsibility for the decisions that they made. We want to blame every black people be like, "Oh God, why is this happening to me?" 95% of the time it's a choice that you made
Hmm.
why these things is happening to you. It's like everybody want to blame God. My grandfather told me a story one time, and he was like, he said a man was walking down the road and he seen Satan on the side of the road crying. And the man asked Satan, "Why you on this road crying?" He said, "Because I've done nothing and everybody blames me for everything." And the moral of the story is sometimes it's us. It's not the devil. It's not God just doing all these mean things to us. It's literally our poor choices. God says that we could choose life and death and to choose life. He tells us the right choice to pick, and we still be like, I don't really like that choice. I'm gonna go with the one that feels good to me. And so a lot of it is not on no one else but our own self.
You know, it's interesting because one of the quotes that I highlighted was actually Batman's guilt response. And he says, "If I hadn't made him into Robin, he would have grown to do wrong. Then I got him killed. My partner, my soldier, my fault." And I think a lot of the time, now, I think sometimes when we take responsibility for other people's actions, it's almost vanity. or pride to some degree. And here's why I think that. Because sometimes we as human beings, we tend to think that the world revolves around us, right? We think, oh, it's because this happened because I did this. It's because, and sometimes it is our fault, certain things happening. But I think when we start accumulating every single thing that goes wrong in our lives with something we did, we get this prideful thing that, okay, that means, because then the opposite will be true, right? Because if everything I did caused everybody else to treat me wrong or to do something wrong, or then that also means that I have control over other people. And that means if I do certain things, then I can control. And I think in the world we live in, I think sometimes we have this tendency to think that what we're doing and what we're seeking is right in and of our own selves, our own ability. And this is why I love Jesus so much, because what he tells us during the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus talks about this whole aspect of, don't worry about what you're going to eat. Don't worry about what you're going to wear. Don't worry about these things. I'm going to take care of you. But we flip it. What we do is, and plus Jesus says, seek the kingdom first and then I'll add. But what we tend to do is we try to accumulate all those things and then follow Jesus. We flip it upside down. And so what we're doing is we're actually telling God, well, I don't trust what you said. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work really hard to get everything that I want, and then I'm going to follow you. Instead of saying, Lord, I want to do what you want me to do and trust you that you're going to provide for me. That's the issue. And I think because people are distrustful or they think they have to control everything, I think even that will cause depression in and of itself, right? Because the question I had there was, how much responsibility does a teacher take for a student? And so I would say to the point when the student is on his own, right? Because if the student is like, for example, let's just say I do. My young nephew, who I'm responsible for discipling, and I'm responsible to teach him, to guide him, to push him in the right direction. After that, after he's on his own, he's responsible. I can't take responsibility for every action that he does, right? I have to get to a point where, you know what, that's his fault. He went down the wrong path or he went down the right path. At the same time, I can't take glory because he does the right thing. I can't say, well, yeah, that's right. He did it because I taught him, right? Because then it becomes pride. So it's like with real reviews and the movies we watch, there are nuances, there are loopholes, there are things that we have to take into consideration. A lot of things aren't necessarily black or white. There's a lot of gray, but we have to be wise enough to discover the gray. Now, there are things that are absolutely right and absolutely wrong. But if we don't take into consideration those little small nuances, we can actually hurt the people we're trying to minister to as opposed to helping them, right? Because perfect example, Batman. I think Batman has got to the point where there is no help for the Joker. There's just no help. He does not care. He's not repentant. He's not seeking anything. I think to that point, he just needs to give up on him. But somebody like Robin, he's still like on that teeter side where he could go to the good side. He could stop doing the evil. And I think working on him will probably be better. And I think, as far as that, I'm going to keep ranting because there's so many things I want to talk about in the film. But any thoughts on this aspect, either from Nate or BK?
Nah, you good, bro.
All right, cool. Let me see. The next thing, let's see what people are talking about in the chat. Roxby's asking CMB, are there any movies that do show the aspect of his character? I like to watch them. I think she's talking about Batman. Yeah. He says, I can't say this movie demonstrated Batman's closeness to the line of madness per se, but knowing the general lore of Batman, it seems Batman's self-control is the only thing stopping him from being a villain. It's interesting because is it his self-control? Is it fear that's keeping him from going over to the dark side because he doesn't want to go because he knows? I think there is a healthy dose of fear that we all should have of God, just in general. I think you should be afraid of God, but not so afraid where you don't come to him. There's the balance. Because sometimes, and I've heard individuals say this in the chat, I'm pretty sure you guys, because a lot of you are Christians in the chat, I'm pretty sure you heard of people saying, well, I don't want to go to God because I'm afraid. I'm afraid he's not going to love me. I'm afraid he's not going to care about me. I'm afraid he's going to destroy me, and so forth and so on. When I came out of the cult, I thought God was going to kill me. So I was afraid to approach God. And I think that to some degree is healthy, right? We realize how powerful God is and who he is. We have that reverence, that reverent respect and that fear. But at the same time, we shouldn't be so afraid that we don't go to our Father when we're at our lowest, right? Because the Lord is also loving. He's also just. He's also understanding. He knows more than you and I, more than any of my brothers and sisters in the chat or on the panel. He knows what it's like to feel shame. He knows what it's like to feel guilt or hurt or pain or sadness, right? Because Jesus came in this world. He experienced things in the flesh, right? He was tempted. All these things. So God knows intimately everything that we're going through. Not only that, but he has all knowledge. So that's the person you can go to when darkness is overcome in your own heart. That's the person you should run to. You should run to the Lord in your weakness and say, I'm ashamed. I fell short. I'm not good. I need you, Lord. I need your help. I don't know what to do. I keep falling into the same sin and I don't know how to get out of this pit. God is there, right? So, okay. Let me see. Okay, so Batman says this about Robin, or, the Red Hood. He says, there has been an uptick in heavy traffic, but crime is down. So the question I have is, are results the only thing we base on whether or not something is effective? BK.
No, right? Because you could do, I mean, and Israel was guilty of this. You could do all the right things for all the wrong reasons.
Mm.
They followed the law, but their hearts wasn't in it. They just did it because that's what they were. It was an obligation, as opposed to them being in right relation with Yahweh.
Right.
So yeah, so one doesn't denote the other at all.
Yeah, because Robin's whole issue in this film was, his only thing was, I just want to see crime go down and I'm going to stop it by any means necessary. That means I'm going to do evil, I'm going to kill people, and hey, crime is down. If you kill all the criminals in one city, crime is down. But that doesn't mean killing all the criminals was the right thing to do, right? Or wasn't the right, or what? Yeah, was the right thing to do. And you bringing up the children of Israel is a great example, given that Israel's focus primarily was to what? Okay, we do these rituals, we do these things, and so we can keep on sinning because we're doing everything God told us, instead of looking into the intention of why God told us not to do these things. And I think that's along the lines of, like, what I'm thinking about. Nate, any thoughts on that as far as the Red Hood wiping out everybody? What were your thoughts when he's going around taking out all these criminals? Is it the right thing to do? Is it the wrong thing to do? What are your thoughts?
Well, you made a good point, because there's the question of, well, why are we doing it? Going back to when Batman said, why, when he took Jason under his wing, because it made him Robin, because he knew he would do all these bad things. Now, mind you, I part of when Michelle was talking, I couldn't hear her because I think there was some technical issues, so I don't know everything that she may have addressed. Just put that out there. But it's funny thinking about that. You take Robin and you sort of channel his, I guess, energy or his desires and teach him to do all these things. And yeah, you get these results. You're stopping bad guys. You're saving lives. But does he understand why he's doing it? Does he understand the value of reducing crime and saving lives and things like that? Because if you don't understand why, because to me, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I think he's trying to impress Batman. He's doing all this because Batman has taken him as a son. He sees him as his father, and he's doing this for his adopted father. All the stuff that he's doing, he's trying to do it to impress him. And then suddenly, when he feels betrayed by him, that doesn't matter anymore. He still wants to reduce crime. He still wants to do all these things, but suddenly he's able to cross all these lines. And so it's the question of why. And I think it's kind of the difference between being obedient on the surface, being one who is circumcised as under the law, or are you is it your heart that's circumcised? Why are you doing this? Is it coming from the heart, or are you doing it because you're doing it from a legalistic point of view? And so I think maybe that's the problem. Is just like Robin knew or had a sense of what it should look like, but he didn't really understand what it is he was trying to do, what he was trying to accomplish, what he was trying to protect, what he was trying to build up, and why he was trying to save people, why he was trying to stop evil. I think maybe it's because he was doing it for his earthly adopted father, and I think that's why we need to point people to our heavenly Father, because we're going to fail, and if people are doing things for us, fail, we see what happens. We've seen what prominent leaders within the church, how people have fallen away because of how they've fallen. And so that's why we have to, if Batman had pointed Robin maybe to a higher standard, having a higher understanding of justice that went beyond their own subjective sense, I wonder if that would have grounded him, even when he couldn't, when the fact that he didn't kill Joker after what he did to Jason, maybe that wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's a lot of good points, man. There's so much. That's why I really enjoyed this film. Although I think this is probably the shortest one we watched of the ones we watched so far. But I wanted that story to continue. I wish they would have stretched it out, just to give a little more, pause. But I think they did good. I think maybe it was the right length, for this kind of film, for approaching this story. But like Michelle said, there are other aspects to the story, death in the family, so forth and so on. So before we go on too long, there is one thing I want to say, and then we'll kind of get our final thoughts about the film, is Robin. I'm going to talk about 2 points really quickly. Robin, he says, you can't stop crime. That's what you never understood. I'm controlling it. It's this aspect of Robin thinks that he's God. And if he just controls it, if he's the one to control it, then that makes him the arbiter of right and wrong. He becomes the objective lawgiver, right? In the sense of the entire city of Gotham, because then it's up to Robin whether something is right or wrong. And if he's controlling everything, then of course he's going to make a bunch of mistakes just like he did. So that's one point I wanted to make. We can't control this world. We can't control, we can't say if I was in power, I could stop all this. Because we know for sure that if any one of us were in power, we would probably cause a lot more chaos. I would venture to say that we would definitely cause a lot more chaos than good, even with the best intentions. Like Michelle said earlier, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. We have good intentions, but we are also flawed. We're also subject to this flesh. There are things that we still have to wrestle with. So this is why it's so important that we place all of our faith, all of our trust in the one who is morally perfect, and that's God. The second thing I want to say is I think everybody needs an Alfred, hands down. I think everybody needs an Alfred. Alfred is Batman's moral compass. I think Alfred is that person that's in his ear. He's not the most powerful, right? Of course, he can fight. Later on in the years, we discovered that he could fight. There's background to Alfred and stuff like that. But in general, Alfred's like this frail, old guy, but he's also the voice of reason. He is Batman's conscience to some degree. And we actually saw a very good aspect of that in The Batman with Robert Pattinson, how Alfred played that moral compass, trying to bring him back down, trying to reel him in instead of pushing him into going into vengeance. And I think without Alfred there, without having that person, I think people would make bad mistakes. And so in my summation, what I want to say is discipleship community groups in your own church are extremely important. People who hold you accountable, but people who actually care about you, people who love you. You can't just trust everybody with your own decisions and soul and different aspects of your life. You do have to find the person that you can trust, but also a person who loves God more than they love you, because that's the person who's going to hold you accountable. And so that's what I wanted. Those are my last final 2 points. So we're going to go around the room real quick, give our final thoughts and score of the movie. And of course, I wanted to see you guys in the chat. Tell me, out of 5 stars, what did you think of the film? Nate2D2, what's your score and maybe some final thoughts about the film for you?
My score, when I was originally rewatching this, I thought it was going to be around a 4. But the ending, the last, I forget, like 10 minutes or so, was just so perfect. So I think I have to bump it up to maybe about a 4.25. It as a whole, again, it's not perfect. And I don't even blame the producers, the directors, whatever, because I think that you have certain limitations, and like you said, it would have been nice to kind of have a expanded story. If this particular storyline was told within, let's say, the context of a larger series, if say this, because this is a standalone movie, some of the later movies that they put out are actually part of a larger continuity. If this was part of a larger continuity, and we had been following maybe Jason when he had first been with Batman when they first joined, and then when he died, and been able to follow all of that, this would have been even more an impactful story. We kind of had to compress that and learn about who Jason was, how he died, and then kind of have that have meaning. So because of that, I think it's a little bit difficult. So 4.25 out of 5. But it is an excellent movie. They did a really good job. This is definitely one of the better ones of the early releases. I would definitely recommend it. Go. I think it's on Max,
Yeah,
right?
HBO Max.
Formerly
Yeah.
HBO Max. Yeah. So definitely go watch this one. Give it a chance, even if in the beginning it doesn't seem great. I think the voice acting was actually pretty
Really
good.
good.
It's hard to match up with at least for me, growing up with Batman the animated series, Kevin Conroy is hands down the best. But I think Bruce Greenwood has actually done a pretty good job. He's also in, I think, Young Justice as Batman as well. So he's actually a pretty good, I say, second to Kevin Conroy. And all the other voice actors did an excellent job too. I think Neil Patrick Harris was Nightwing, and Jensen Ackles was adult Jason Todd. And so, yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, but I think just it's 4.2 out of 5. Watch it, highly recommend. And
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nate. Michelle, what's your score and your final thoughts?
My score would be 4.5 out of 5. And my final thoughts is I really enjoyed it. I think it is worth a watch. I will also say watch the very first part of Death in the Family too, if you want to get a little bit more insight on it. But I think it is one of the better of the animated series. DC does a really great job with animation anyway. But 4.5 out of 5.
Nice. Thank you, sis. I agree. BK, man, final thoughts and final score, man. Whoop, can't hear him. Okay, so I am going to give my final thoughts and score. I don't know if he left or not. So, but if he did, I think he's going to give it a perfect score. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. For me, I guess I'd just be controversial. 4.38. I would just get between you and you and Nate, Michelle. But no, I think you guys give a very accurate score. It wasn't perfect, which is why it doesn't receive a 5, but it was really good. And I've seen it twice. I would watch it 3, 4, 5 times. It's something that has a lot of rewatchability for me. So I truly enjoyed it. So for me, that's what I give it, a 4.38, just so I can fall between my friends. And I pretty much agree with their score anyway. So I'm going to look in the live chat real quick to see if anybody gave any scores. Of course, Shani, 0 stars. Okay. So with that said, I want to say thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us on Real Reviews. Nate, Do you know what the next thing we're doing? I got to look on the list. What's the next movie we're reviewing?
I think it's In the Corner of the World, or is that what it's called?
In
The
this
one about
corner of the world. Okay, that was
bomb?
Michelle's request for an anime. So I'm actually really interested in
I'm
looking at
excited.
that. So I'm really interested. I've never watched it. I have no idea what to expect. The same way I didn't know what to expect when it came to Spirited Away, which is BK's favorite movie. Rox B, she gave it a 4.87. Nice score. You like that a lot more than I thought you would. Nice one. Good score. Thanks, sis. But yeah, so we'll look at this In This Corner of the World. So if you guys are familiar with it, Nate, do me a favor on Facebook. Share the pictures and all that stuff, and I'll try to see if I could maybe find a little bit of history behind it just to get people amped up about it, because it seems to be a very interesting film that kind of deals with this whole aspect of war-torn countrysides and difficulty with family members being raised at that time. Again, I don't know anything about the movie other than when I read the synopsis, I thought that this is a very heavy very heavy moral issue for a cartoon or an anime to carry. But we're used to animes carrying heavy things, so I think it'll be fine. CMB the Ambassador, he gives it a 4 out of 5. Solid movie. Mr. Green, 4 out of 5. I think most people are going to be 4 out of 5 on that film. I think that seems to be the general consensus for it. So with that said, man, God bless you guys. I want to thank my crew here for being here and watching the film and giving their thoughts. I hope we helped you a little bit, maybe in your own moral walk. So we use these films, of course, on Real Reviews to have very deep conversations, because I believe that movies have a way of giving us a message. And I want to make sure that we are able to decipher that message appropriately and not get sucked in to whatever films tell us as what is right and wrong, but for us to use the word of the Lord to be able to decipher between those things. Anyway, God bless you guys. Take care, and I hope to see you on the next review. Peace out.